Hello everybody. Today I'll be reading the verses from the Ashtavakra Gita, the Mahageeta, as I've compiled it from the chapter 2. As Ashtavakra tells for the better understanding of Janak. I'm not this body, nor do I have any body, because I am not a separate individual, but pure consciousness. My only bondage was that I had a zest for life. And then he explains, in this verse, Janak proclaims total disidentification with any psychosomatic apparatus as a separate individual. Therefore, since the very basis of conceptualization is gone, objectivization has ceased, and a non-objective relationship has arisen. In other words, Janak finds that he does not think of himself as an object at all, any kind of an object, either physical or psychic, and therefore finds himself without any objective quality whatsoever. He is free of the very idea, neither the presence nor the absence of anything perceptible or conceivable. This has led him to a non-objective relationship with others inasmuch as he no longer regards other objects, animate or inanimate, as his objects. Thus, Janak now sees both supposed subject, me, and its supposed objects as mere appearances. This understanding, this intuitive conviction, is that an object we are all mere appearances without any substance as phenomena, but that as a noumenon, what we all are cannot be anything different. This means, in effect, sudden enlightenment, the instant elimination of what is metaphysically considered as ignorance. Duality has been accepted as part of the mechanism of manifestation, while the duality of me as the pseudo-subject against the other as the object has disappeared. It is perhaps necessary to add that in a non-objective relationship like this, there is really no love intrinsic in it. Love, as the word is generally understood, denotes a separation, whereas a non-objective relationship means not love, but compassion or karuna. The essence of this is immediate joy, being at one moment. One meant, we do not love others, we are others. We are everything that's made up of the conscious, and everything is made up of the conscious. What Janak also points out is that this basic understanding brings out the undeniable fact that, other than his clear apperception that the primal substance of all sentient and insentient being is the same noumenon, there cannot be any action, any effort that can lead an individual to his enlightenment. This is because such belief is based on the concept that there is a he to be enlightened, whereas enlightenment merely denotes a state of beingness where no separate individual can exist. Any action, any practice is phenomenal, and it is obvious that a phenomenon cannot act upon noumenon. A shadow cannot act upon its substance. In other words, any intentional procedure, practice, or action of any kind is a definite obstruction to what is known as awakening, or illumination, or enlightenment. This is because any intentional deed is based on the superstition that an individual exists. Enlightenment is the name given to the noumenon state, How can a phenomenal object be enlightened? Perhaps the error has arisen because of a confusion between what is understood by the word awakening and the effect of such awakening which may be understood by the word deliverance. Awakening is what has happened to Janak on listening to Ashtavakra's words, a sudden coincidence of intellectual comprehension and intuitive apprehension, wherein the relative split of the mind to subject and object is suddenly healed into its original wholeness, thereby causing an immediate timelessness through an instantaneous break in succession of duration. This clearly means that no action or process, the basis of which is duration, could possibly bring about a sudden suspension or break in its own temporal functioning. It is the Guru who acts as a catalyst, which brings about the necessary healing of the split mind through an immediate intemporal intervention at an appropriate moment, when a solution of a successional continuity is presented. And it is obvious that at such an appropriate moment could not possibly be created volitionally in the context of spatial duration. Such an appropriate moment can only occur as a part of the nominal functioning of totality, only when the very happening of enlightenment is appropriate as part of the what is at that kshana or split second. Non-objective relationship brings about, though, through its very nature, two developments. Conceptualization ceases, and life is lived spontaneously without volition. This is what Janak says in these verses. He has apperceived what Ashtavakra meant to tell him, that conceptualizing or objectivizing is what prevents us from apperceiving what we truly are. If we cease fabricating objects in mind, we will stop perceiving that we are not and apperceive what we are. Such apperceiving of what we are is just the enlightenment that is sought. It is the awakening from the dream of an objective universe to the nominal actuality of what is, which is prior to all thought, all conceptualization. Briefly, all that Ashtavakra said and Janak apperceived is that as long as we are conceptualizing, we put ourselves out of our nominality. And as soon as we stop conceptualizing, we are in nominality. Having said this, and even this saying is conceptualizing, it may be added that conceptualizing is not the sort of obstacle that needs a substitute or a counter force to knock it out. Indeed, any positive action can only strengthen the obstacle, because the obstacle arose in the first place because of the positive action of conceptualizing. The stopping of conceptualizing is all the action, a sort of negative action that is necessary. The foundation on which all conceptualization is based is the fallacious identification of what I am, which is subjectivity, and what I appear to be as an object. It is a supposed separate entity, me, which assumes the responsibility and the consequent misery and unhappiness of the doership. If this false identity is given up, the very basis of conceptualization will have been demolished. How, then, as Janak says, can conceptualization take place when it has lost its basic support? The apparent difficulty of disidentification is that we are indeed sentience, the subjective faculty, the I, but we forget the sentient element as a sentient being. and identify ourselves with the individual being. All that is necessary to understand the situation as it prevails. Observe the false identification, at least intellectually, in the beginning. And when such intellectual reasoning, the dialectic understanding, goes deeper and deeper and reaches the stage of absolute conviction, it causes a withdrawal into impersonality, a definite loosening of the false identification. It brings about a conceptual negativity which creates a set of conditions for the final annihilation of the me, and the occurrence of what is termed as awakening or the enlightenment, or whatever you could, if you prefer, call this process an effort. But the point is that this process itself is necessarily a negative sort of process. It means merely understanding the situation. It is not the positive effort of an individual with the deliberate intention of bringing about a positive result. All that happens is that intellectual or dialectic understanding, when it is allowed to function, gradually turns into conviction. This in turn creates the necessary psychosomatic condition for nominal understanding to occur suddenly at an appropriate time in appropriate circumstances. The split mind regains its wholeness and holiness. Such a sudden transformation, the metanosis, known by various names such as awakening or enlightenment, means in effect subjective experience of the I feeling. It is the subjective experience which Janak expresses in the final 3 verses of his immediate reaction to his Guru's initial instruction. This disidentification with the body has brought about the demolition of me, and with it the desire, the volition, the zest for life. So says Janak, when there is no more desire and zest for life, the very foundation and basis of the conceptual bondage has been cracked. I'd like to finish my chapter 2 here. Let's meet you soon with chapter 3 of the Ashtavakra Mahageeta.